The rain had started unexpectedly, heavy and relentless, washing over the city streets like a river released from the sky. The tall skyscrapers blurred behind the downpour, their lights flickering hazily through the curtain of water. The streets glistened, puddles forming quickly, each drop adding to the chaos of an already bustling morning. People hurried with umbrellas overhead, shielding themselves from the storm, rushing to offices, meetings, and commitments that cared nothing for weather. In the middle of it all, a man in a navy blue suit ran through the rain, briefcase in hand. His shoes splashed hard into puddles, soaking his trousers. His heart pounded, not just from the sprint but from the urgency of the moment. His name was Daniel Reeves, a mid-level executive at a large corporate firm. Today was not just any day for him, it was the day he was to deliver a major presentation to the board, the kind of opportunity that could change his career. Missing it wasn't an option. But fate, it seemed, had other plans. His cab had broken down 3 blocks away, and by the time he gathered his things and decided to run, the rain had already started. He clutched his briefcase tightly, water dripping from his hair into his eyes, the city lights around him flickering in distorted reflections across the wet pavement. Each step felt heavier than the last, but he pressed forward, driven by ambition, fear, and the hope of making it just in time. Behind him, another figure walked more calmly. A man also in a suit, but unlike Daniel, this man carried an umbrella. He walked with measured steps, his polished shoes tapping rhythmically against the wet street. His pace was steady, almost unbothered by the storm raging around him. His name was Michael Hartley, though to Daniel, at that moment, he was just another passerby. Daniel didn't notice the man with the umbrella at first, he was too focused on his sprint. But then his briefcase slipped from his wet hand, crashing into a puddle with a splash. The sound was sharp, final, like the very symbol of his efforts being swallowed by the storm. Damn it! Daniel cursed under his breath, crouching quickly to retrieve it. His papers inside, though sealed in plastic folders, were surely dampened at the edges. He pulled it up, shaking water from its surface, his heart sinking lower with each passing second. That's when Michael, the umbrella man, stopped. For a brief moment, he simply stood there, watching Daniel struggle in the rain. He could have walked on, after all, everyone was in a hurry in the city. Everyone had their own burdens, their own places to be. But Michael didn't move. Instead, he took a few steps toward Daniel, tilting his umbrella slightly to cover the drenched man. "You okay?" Michael asked, his voice calm, steady against the sound of rain. Daniel looked up, blinking water from his eyes, surprised by the gesture. Strangers didn't often stop in this city. Especially not during a downpour like this. I'll manage, Daniel stammered, though his soaked clothes and trembling hands said otherwise. Michael smiled faintly. "You're heading somewhere important, aren't you?" Daniel nodded, clutching the briefcase to his chest. "I've got a presentation. Biggest of my career." And now, he gestured helplessly at the rain, his soaked appearance a testament to disaster. "I probably look like a mess." Michael looked at him thoughtfully for a moment. Then, without hesitation, he extended the umbrella further over Daniel. "Come on," he said. "Walk with me." Daniel hesitated. Kindness like this was rare, almost suspicious in a city where everyone kept to themselves. But something in Michael's tone, steady, sincere, made him accept. Slowly, he rose to his feet and fell into step beside the man with the umbrella. The two walked together down the slick street, rain pounding around them but never directly above them. For Daniel, it felt like a small bubble of safety in the storm. The umbrella shielded not just his head, but also his hope. "Why are you helping me?" Daniel asked after a moment, curiosity breaking through his stress. Michael chuckled softly. "Because I can. You looked like you needed it. And sometimes, the smallest kindness can make the biggest difference." Daniel frowned slightly, though not in disagreement, more in contemplation. His life until now had been about competition, deadlines, and pushing harder than the person next to him. The corporate world rarely allowed space for kindness. And yet here was a stranger, offering him shelter without asking for anything in return. They walked in silence for a few blocks, the only sounds the rain tapping against the umbrella and the distant hum of traffic. Gradually, Daniel's frantic breathing slowed, his panic subsiding as the boardroom clock ticked closer in his mind. "What about you?" Daniel finally asked. "Don't you have somewhere to be?" Michael smiled again, a knowing look in his eyes. "I do. But sometimes being on time isn't as important as being there for someone else." Those words sank deep into Daniel, though he didn't yet know why. At the end of the street, as they neared a cab stand, Michael stopped. He lowered the umbrella slightly and looked Daniel straight in the eye. "You'll make it," he said simply. "Don't let the storm convince you otherwise." Daniel swallowed, nodding slowly. "Thank you, really. I don't even know your name." "Michael," he replied, shaking his hand warmly. "And you?" "Daniel." Michael nodded. "Good luck, Daniel. Remember, sometimes the rain is just a reminder to slow down and notice the people around you." With that, Michael handed him the umbrella. Daniel blinked in surprise. "No, I can't take this. You'll get soaked." Michael shrugged. "I've walked in the rain before. But you need it more right now. Consider it a loan from the universe." Before Daniel could protest, Michael turned and walked away, his figure fading into the blur of falling rain. Daniel stood there, the umbrella in hand, a strange warmth filling his chest despite the cold storm. When Daniel finally arrived at the office building, damp but no longer drenched, the boardroom was just being prepared. He had made it in time. His presentation, though his edges of papers still carried faint water stains, was delivered with a fire he hadn't felt in years. Perhaps it was the adrenaline, or perhaps it was the memory of the man who had slowed down to help him. Whatever it was, Daniel spoke not just with ambition, but with sincerity. And the board noticed. He got the promotion. But more importantly, he walked away from that day with something greater, a realization. In the weeks and months that followed, Daniel found himself thinking often about Michael. Who was he? Why had he stopped? And why did that brief encounter feel more important than the career milestone he had achieved? Slowly, Daniel began to change. He started noticing others more, the janitor cleaning late at night, the intern struggling with coffee orders, the receptionist with tired eyes. And instead of brushing past them, he began to pause, to ask, to offer kindness in small but meaningful ways. An extra hand, a patient ear, a word of encouragement. Each time he did, he remembered the umbrella. Years later, Daniel would find himself in a position of power, sitting at the head of the very boardroom he once feared. But unlike others before him, he led differently. His decisions weren't guided only by profit margins, but by people. He pushed for policies that supported employees, for mentoring programs that lifted new voices, for a culture where kindness wasn't a weakness but a strength. And one rainy afternoon, as he walked out of his office building, he saw a young man running through the downpour, papers spilling from his bag, panic etched across his face. Daniel smiled faintly, lifted the umbrella he now always carried, and stepped toward him. "Hey," he said, his voice calm, steady against the sound of rain. "You okay?" And just like that, the cycle of kindness continued. For in the end, it was never just about the umbrella. It was about a choice, one simple choice to notice, to care, and to act. And sometimes, that choice could change not just a day, not just a career, but a life.